All right, welcome to the Church Office Podcast. My name is Gavin Smith, and it's lovely to welcome you to this podcast about the work that happens behind the scenes in our churches. So if you're involved in treasury, secretaries, you might be a church administrator, you might be someone helping in the building, whatever you're doing, we value what you do and celebrate it on this podcast. And it's kind of a thrill to be able to welcome you today. I've got a Christmas jumper on. If you're watching online, this podcast, I've got a Christmas jumper because we're talking to Naomi Hodges today from Renewal in Birmingham, who's got a Christmas project that we need to hear about. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
It's brilliant. It's great to have you here, and so thrilled to kind of love to celebrate projects and ideas and kind of, it seems my staff were a bit worried about me today because they were like, why have you got a Christmas jumper on? Why are you wearing that now? I'm like, I'm doing a podcast about Christmas. Nobody panic. We're not going to put the decorations up yet.
Isn't everyone in churches already planning Christmas?
Well, I think they should be. If you're organised and you are thinking about Christmas. I remember one.
No.
I remember one lady saying to me that they came up with this brilliant craft and they had to start it at the start of October, literally to get it done for enough kids to be able to do it in the area.
Come on, guys. It's only like 90 days to go, so we need to be getting ahead of the game.
So if you're listening and you haven't started planning for Christmas, then don't panic. Just get on and start making those plans. So Naomi, tell us a little bit about yourself and the church that you're in before we dive into your brilliant project.
Yeah, so my name's Naomi. I got married last year. So I was Ridgen, now I'm Hodges. I currently work at Renewal, which is a church based in Solihull. We're a church that's across 3 locations. So we're based in Chelmsley Wood, Solihull and Stratford upon Avon. So we roughly reach about 1,000 people a week across congregations. And then we've got various groups that happen during the week as well. My role at Renewal includes, so I'm community development lead. That's my job title. So I guess I get to do a lot of the stuff that people enjoy doing. And I have the privilege of calling that my job. So I oversee our food bank, known as Helping Hands. And so this year to date, I think we've supported 5,800 people with that.
Wow.
So I oversee that. I manage our stay and play groups, and then I run our seasonal projects as well. So at Easter, we give out Easter eggs to lots of the local schools with invites to our church gatherings. And a little success story, there was a couple of kids that received some Easter eggs, and then they came to some of our Christmas gatherings, our Easter gatherings, and as a result, are now plugged into church, which is amazing. So, and now we're thinking about Christmas. So I oversee our toy offering project as well.
It's great, and that's really kind of where we're going to focus the podcast today, is this kind of toy offering project that you guys call it, and so many churches are doing so many good works across our churches in the UK and further afield on Christmas, and using it as an opportunity to kind of reach people with the gospel. Yeah. And giving someone a present is a great way to kind of start a relationship or start a conversation or just show kindness to somebody who's totally unexpecting it. And so tell us about this toy offering then. Where did the idea come from, and how do you guys put this together?
So I guess I've picked up toy offering in the last couple of years. Renewal have run toy offering, my understanding, is for about 15 years.
Wow.
And so it's, I think, for those that have been in the church, so Renewal's 50 years old this year. So for those that have been in the church longer, I think it's been really, amazing actually to see it progress and to see its name grow and develop. Yeah. It started just by a few families coming to Renewal and needing support at Christmas. And now this last year just gone, we supported 260 families with presents, which equated to about 603 children. So it's a mammoth operation that I have to start planning in September. So I guess toy offering, the purpose of toy offering is to provide presents to children who would otherwise have nothing to open on Christmas morning. I guess in a lot of ways, we don't know always that is definitely the families that they're going to, but actually what we do know is they're going to families that have been flagged to us by social services, by local schools, by Women's Aid. So some of them are in refuge, and all of the kind of vulnerable child status. We know that families are vulnerable in order to be referred to us.
Yeah.
So I guess to break toy offering down a little bit more, some of the things that what we do is we provide every child with 3 presents. So they get 3 presents, and then the family unit will also get a family game, a family book, and a craft of some kind.
Oh, cool.
And then so they're then delivered in kind of big Christmas sacks.
Yeah.
And the agencies generally will deliver those directly to the families,
Okay.
just for the sake of dignity as well for the parents. Yeah. We started a couple of years ago, they did a pop-up shop in one of our locations in Chelmsford Wood, where parents could come and choose the presents for the children.
Okay. Yeah.
So we relaunched that last year, and that was amazing. So we'd kind of pre-planned. We knew that the families that were going to come. It worked out as about 40. I think we had 40 down. I think about 25 turned up.
Okay.
So that's certainly a challenge, I guess, on the flip. But we'd allocated all of the toys. So one of the things that we ask for is preferences for children and likes and dislikes.
Yeah.
And so we'd got a bit of an idea of that. So we pray as well as a team just to make sure that actually there's an element of guidance to what we're providing.
Yeah.
And then we would lay it all out. It would we try and make it look a little bit like a shop.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have volunteers that go around with the family and say, okay, so per child, you can have something off the top table, something off of underneath the table, and then a few things from the middle. Yeah. Last year, there was an amazing story of a family coming through, and a mum, she'd been in a domestic abuse relationship, and she'd recently left refuge. So she just set up home for herself. And she'd been not allowed access to money. And she literally had not been allowed to do anything really. It sounded really
sad.
Really sad.
Yeah.
And she came and she just burst into tears the moment she walked in. Like, I can't believe that I can literally have anything. So that was one story and you just see the blessing that it is to people.
Yeah. And that's so cool, is it, that they can go in and choose something. I mean, with Food Bank and other things, we've got kind of a set kind of package that we give, but to go and choose something specifically for your kid and be able to bless your kid in it, there's something wonderful for a parent, isn't there? I love that. And
it gives the control back as well to the parent. Because we can pick stuff because we've got a general idea of what children like, but that is all it is, a general idea. And so again, prayer is just fundamental to how we run the project. For all of the volunteers. But another story was that again, you pray and you just really hope that you put the right things out. This parent, another parent arrived, and there was a scooter that her boy had been asking for. And she genuinely was like, I'm just not going to be able to afford it. But so she was referred to toy offering, and she was walking around and she was checking out everything that there was. And then she spotted the exact scooter that her boy had been asking for. And she just looked at us and went, "Can I have it?" And we were like, "Yeah."
Oh, amazing.
So there's just some real win stories.
Yeah, that's great.
For toy offering, and I guess that's a bit of a messy summary.
No, it's great, and I love your passion, and I can just see it. I can see such a difference it's making. I'm doing the maths, thinking, okay, you've helped 600 kids, and they're all taking 3 or 4 presents each, and then I'm doing the maths, thinking, wow, that's a lot of presents to kind of store and generate. And so tell me about some of the partners that you've developed, and because this for somebody who's thinking, oh, we'd love to do a present drive or something, or a big gift this year in our church, who might want to start. I don't want them to feel overwhelmed with 600 kids, but give me some thoughts.
I think so I guess one of the things that I've become a bit of an outrageous asker.
Love it.
So much to my family's like frustration and embarrassment, I literally would just ask for things. So I have I guess some of my key partners, and I guess regular approaches that I do are any places like Dove and Sanctuary Spa and that sort of stuff to provide toiletries.
Yeah.
And I've contacted quite a few places. Of course, there's places that say no.
Yeah.
We've tried quite a few different places, and the answer's been no. A couple of years ago, we asked McVitie's, and they gave us about 600 boxes of biscuits,
Amazing.
which was incredible. So I guess so what we also do alongside the presents is like some family bags.
Yeah.
So one of our main givers is our church.
Yeah.
So we have a toy offering Sunday.
Okay.
That's in our calendar. So it's last Sunday of November every year.
Okay.
And we just make a really big deal of it. I guess it's in a lot of ways the launch of our Christmas.
Yeah.
So church partners will give toys. So we kind of give two options of giving. Either people can give toys or they can give money.
Okay.
Because we've then developed a relationship with the entertainer, the toy shop.
Yeah.
Who's a Christian.
Great.
And so we've partnered with them, and so they have agreed. We kind of have to re-ask for it every year just to kind of honour their situations as well. But they've agreed to give us 20% off across the store with the monetary donations that we have. So especially when we were in COVID, and we didn't particularly want toys being given because of all of the quarantine stuff that we had to do with it. That was amazing. Yeah. But we also push it out quite wide. So I contact quite a lot of local groups and say, hey, we're running our toy offering again this year. We'd love it if you'd support. You can either do that through our Amazon wish list, you can do it through financial giving, or you can bring a toy to our office that's open 9 till 5. And local schools, local community groups.
Great.
I was talking to somebody yesterday. I was doing a shop yesterday, and I bought some things just because I'd spotted them, because all of the Christmas stuff's already out, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And somebody said to me, "Oh, what are you buying these for?" Because they were just some cuddly toys and some books. Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, I run a toy offering," and they said, "Oh, where do you run it?" So I said, "Oh, I work for a church in Solihull, and we run a toy offering every year." And they just said, "Oh yeah, I buy pajamas and I give them to a local refuge." And I was like, it's amazing, isn't it? How actually people, there's something real feel good, I think, about people giving something at Christmas.
Yeah.
Because we're all aware that there's people that are worse off than ourselves. Yeah. And sometimes we just don't know how to support it.
Yeah.
One of the other ways that we get toys in is we have there's a Facebook group for Solihull, or a Facebook updates group called Solihull Updates. So we tend to do like a video that goes out there, and again, that reaches thousands of people. Yeah. Again, to give financially, to bring a gift, or then what we found the last few years is then they have then gathered groups have then gathered locally and then provided toys through that. We had an ex-offender who really wanted to give something back to the community because of the fact that he recognised that he'd caused a lot of hurt and a lot of harm. And his probation officer got in touch with me and said, I've got somebody who'd really like to support because he really wants to give something back to the community. Is there anything that he can support? And so I said, it would be amazing if he could support Toy Offering, or we've also got Food Bank. And he was like, he'd love to support Toy Offering because he can't see his little boy at Christmas.
Yeah.
And so he did an amazing collection for us amongst some friends and stuff. So
that's great. What's wonderful as well is what you're talking about is that you're establishing network, isn't it, into the community of individuals who this is what I do every year, and I give to this toy offering, and through that people come to church, don't they? It just happens, doesn't it? Because as you build into the community, as you serve people in the community, God gives you opportunities, doesn't he, to be a blessing and for people to hear the good news of Jesus. And so it's so exciting.
I guess I know I didn't answer a part of your question about like storage.
Yeah.
So at Renewal, we're really fortunate with our space.
Okay.
And so we've got kind of our main church building site, which is where our gatherings happen. And then we've also got a family centre.
Yeah.
So in our family centre, I book out it was a coffee shop space pre-COVID that we haven't been able to reopen. And what we do is from kind of the start of November is we just line up tables and we get them going from age 0 to 12.
Yeah.
For girls and for boys, and then we've got a load of tables for books, a table for games.
Yeah.
And then I guess that's how we store them.
Yeah.
But I guess as an encouragement for people who maybe are considering starting it, actually that's not a whole space that you need to start with.
Yeah.
And because again, when we first started Toy Offering, or when the team first started Toy Offering, it was 3 or 4 families that actually they changed their lives for. So
that's great. Yeah, that's really good advice, isn't it? Because your project's grown 15 years. You're serving 600 kids and huge families across the city and the region. And you're right, we started doing some small things at Christmas with through our food bank connections and families that we said. And we've also spoken to people like midwives in the community and those sort of Sure Start workers who are serving sort of vulnerable families and kids. And we said to them, like, make recommendations to us of families that you would like to receive a gift. And I think we might have only done 20 families in the first year. Not on the scale, but this thing is scalable, isn't it? You can do it to the capacity you've got space for in storage and volunteers and those kind of things.
And I think something that I'm aware of for this year, and I guess I get really excited about Toy Offering in the lead up to it. The actual implementation and the running of it, I'm like, oh my gosh, why do we do this every year?
Why do I put myself under this stress?
But actually, like I guess, and as well this year with cost of living hitting as it is, I'm aware that the demand is going to be greater than it ever has been probably before. But also I'm aware that we're probably not going to be able to meet all of the need. And I think certainly over the last year, I've had to come to that acceptance for myself with Food Bank as well, of actually, we're not going to be able to meet all of the need here. And that's okay, because there's other people that will also jump into.
Absolutely right.
It's that whole starfish analogy, isn't it? Of actually, if you're picking up and throwing one starfish back in the sea, you're changing one life at a time. So if we can do 10 families, if we can do 100 families, if we can do 120 families, that's better than doing no families.
Yeah, absolutely right. No, that's great. And so any other kind of bits of advice that you've got, in terms of, did you gather a team to start this, or each year do you have people that you go, right, this is our team, and how have you sort of recruited those? Yeah.
So again, I guess it's a little bit of an inherited team who are people that do it every year. Since I've come in, I've been able, I guess, to we all interact with different people, don't we? So I've been able to bring some new people on. The great thing last year was we were able to have our church staff team involved in it as well.
Okay, great.
That was the first time that they've kind of all had to give time to it. But again, for them, I think to see it at work was brilliant. And we've then got some new team joining as well this year. I guess the only thing that I ask for is that people have to be able to give up one Saturday.
Okay.
So do you want a bit of a timeline of how it happened?
Yeah, do it. That sounds good. Yeah.
So I start contacting organisations that I think might be able to give stuff for free from about September.
Great.
And then we start promoting Toy Offering around October to say, hey guys, it's coming up, don't forget. Partly to catch a lot of the toy deals that happen during half term. because one of the mums who I work with has also said, actually, I tend to do a lot of the Christmas shopping for my children during that October half term because of all the deals that happen. So we try and hit that as kind of, I guess, our first milestone. We start our official month of giving for toy offering at the 1st of November.
Okay.
And referrals. So I then email agencies from, again, that first week of November to say referrals are open to your families. We don't limit agency numbers for referrals.
Yeah.
But we just say that the referral form is open for the month of November up until the last week of November. I think it might be like the Wednesday or the Thursday that we switch it off.
Yeah.
And then we have the toy offering Sunday, the last Sunday of November. We then have a week to sort of make sure we've sorted through all of the toys. So then that first week of December, so it's usually around the 4th, the 5th of December, we have our pop-up shop week.
Cool.
So we're going to have a pop-up shop in our Chelmsley Wood location, which is I think it's in the top 20% of the most deprived estates in the UK. So we're aware that there's going to be quite a demand there. And then we're also going to do a Stratford pop-up shop this year as well, which we haven't done before. And then, so that's going to be on the Monday and the Thursday. The Friday, we're then bringing back all of the toys that's sort of left over. Yeah. And then allocating them ready for the pick and pack weekend, which is on the Saturday. So that's usually around the 9th or the 10th of December.
Okay.
And then we have a team of about 10 volunteers, again, that have been doing it since it started. And some that just they just love Christmas and they kind of want to share that joy with other children and families. So then on that Saturday, we start about 9 and then we'll just keep going until it's finished.
Stop for tea and coffee at some point.
Yeah, so I provide the team with lunch. So last year we did a big Domino's order.
Okay, good Domino's, yeah.
And and then kind of throughout that pick and pack day, we'll give regular updates of we've done 50 families so far, which is about 70 children, 200 to go.
200 more to go. Yeah, the countdown begins.
Yeah. So, and then agencies will come and collect from then the Monday, Tuesday of that second week of December. So then usually toy offerings wrapped up by the end of the second week of December, ready then for the Christmas madness of churches.
Yeah, that's good. And so the agencies are then taking the goods and delivering them, and you'll deliver some as well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
In that mix,
Yeah, so
it's great. Yeah. And I think one of the things that for me as a kind of administrator, I always get into the kind of task focused stuff. And I think any project like this where you're serving the community, getting referrals and doing stuff, you want that kind of team alongside you praying. You want to kind of, use as much opportunity as you can for it to be relational, aren't you? Like we don't want to just drop off, 50 parcels in one night, but we want to drop off 10 and get, 5 good conversations. How do we do that? And,
which is totally why the pop-up shops actually have been a bit of a game changer, because I guess because of the fact that the agencies tend to deliver the parcels. Actually it's the pop-up shops where we've had the game-changing conversations.
The opportunity to really chat to people as well.
And we provide tea and coffee, provide mince pies, and make it an experience of dignity for the parent as well. Because I think walking in to something like that, I don't want them to feel a sense of shame. I don't want them to feel a sense of guilt, but I feel as though there would be a sense of that as you were to walk into something like that. And fear and anxiety. And so I guess our hope and our desire is actually that it's a place of welcome that people experience right from the very start.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think sometimes we found good conversations with kind of people delivering a Christmas present, which then actually we get them connected into CAP money, and they've been able to help them with their debt, and then we've been able to support them on the food bank. And so that you kind of start to bring all these different projects that the church are running and together, and to really get to serve people in a way that really does make a huge difference, and not just for the joy for their kids, but it does make a massive difference. Yeah,
absolutely.
And I love that. So fantastic. Well, any challenges, any things that you think, oh, that was hard, could do that differently. If someone's listening to this going, right, I'm going to set this up this year, I'm going to run this in my church.
Something that I do something that I do every year is I've got a bit of a checklist now, which I'm happy to send out to anybody that asks for it, which has worked for us. And I tend to add things every year to it, or take things off that I'm like, oh, I'm not bothering with that again. A challenge, I think, is that consistent. You just have to trust that God is going to bring the goods in.
Yeah.
Because you do sometimes hit a point where you think we're not going to have enough.
Yeah.
And that's a constant. It's a constant trust thing. I was going to say it's a constant fear thing. It's a trust thing that you just, hey, God, you're guiding these referrals, and therefore we are trusting that you're going to provide exactly what it is you need. So I think that's always a challenge. And I think a challenge as well is around the team recruitment and making sure that it's not just the same old people that have done it, who have got the experience, but I guess how are we now equipping new guys to be trained by those guys? So that actually it's something that can again, it's just a sustainable process. Like, how are we equipping new people to come in and help? And I guess just constantly, how are we growing it? I think that, and so my I guess part of the challenge with my role is that I oversee community for all of our locations. So I'm constantly thinking, how is what I do at Solihull, what I do at Chelmsley generalizable to Stratford, and how is what we do at Stratford generalizable to the others? I think we've got that challenge just because we're multi-site. But I think it's also how do we tell people's stories well afterwards? To bring people in on the journey.
Yeah, definitely. And you just can't, it's hard to measure, isn't it, the impact, because it's a wonderful thing to give, to make a parent, to bring peace to a parent at Christmas, that they're able to give something to their child and the kids have something. It's wonderful. And it's such a worthwhile project. And your brother's been telling me about it. I think he's your biggest fan, absolutely biggest fan. And his brother's in our church, and he's like, you've got to talk to my sister. You've got to see this project. It's absolutely amazing. He said, I can't believe how many presents they get. I can't believe how many.
If he's watching, he could maybe offer me a free video.
All right. Yeah. Dan, do you hear that? Okay. Dan and Dan Films. We want a free video of this project. Yeah, I love that. And your checklist, we could put that as a downloadable thing on the website if you're happy for people to connect into that. These things are great, isn't it? And that's the wonderful thing about the Church Office podcast and other you can and networks, is that somebody's done something like this before, hasn't it? And you can learn from each other. So you're not doing it on your own. There's a sense of confidence. Go, right, what can we take from what we've learned today from Naomi, and go, actually, I bring that into our context and go, we could do 50 families, or we could do 10 families. Let's start there and do that really well. And then see what else happens over the Christmas break. And we've got an incredible Savior, and we want to tell people about Jesus. And this is just a lovely route in to do that. So well done. Superb job. I mean, you're doing fantastic, and I think you're right. The climate for people at the minute with Food Bank and other projects into the community is tough, isn't it? And I think
I guess something I just realised I hadn't mentioned, but you've made a really good point of it, of how do we constantly just try and connect the dots into where people are. So with pop-up shops, the conversations that we have, I'm really trying to say. So like, for example, this year we're going to host a Christmas pantomime
cool
the week after pop-up shop, so that we can then say to people, why don't you come along to the panto next week? And then at the panto they'll get an invite to the Christmas gathering the following day, and then, hey, why don't you just actually think about coming on a Sunday? Or why don't you think about coming to Stay and Play, or come to our recovery from addiction course, like whatever. It's I think that you're so right, it's joining the dots for people, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We want one thing to connect to the next, and you're right, and that take people on the journey. And yeah, I love that people kind of become part of us. We've had people who've served in the food bank who are not believers who come along and they love it, and then they're coming to church every Sunday and they love it, and then they get saved, and you're like, this is amazing, isn't it? And I think not just the opportunity to serve the clients that maybe come in for food bank or these gifts, but also the agencies that we're networking with. We've got an opportunity to share Jesus with them as well, and that's exciting as well. These, God's planted people in our network, and will involve people in a project like this for a reason, isn't it? And it's like, this is great that we get a privilege to be part of it and see something happen. So
great. Yeah.
Love that. Well, if you've got any questions that you'd like to fire at Naomi, and you're thinking, right, I could really do with this, you didn't answer this question, then please get in contact with us at questions@thechurchoffice.co.uk. We'd love to be able to connect with you and encourage you in your church and you setting up this project. Please look on the website. We'll get the downloaded secret amazing checklist that you've got going on here, so that we can be served and know where we need to start. And even your timeline was great, so even going back over and re-listening to this and going, oh, that's what they did in these things, they had milestones and we made those. So that sounds great. So please check out the website for more resources. Please pass on the podcast to other churches or other folk that you know who are serving behind the scenes. We'd love to build this and encourage you. And Naomi, thank you so much for your time and being with us. So loved having you, and you're doing a fantastic job. And come and visit us again on the podcast. Come and do another podcast on something else. It'll be great.
I'll come the week after Christmas and be like, we're never doing it again.
We should do the follow-up podcast. What a really good idea. When you're looking haggard and like, oh, I'm never doing that again. Yeah, no, I don't believe that's going to happen. Don't believe that. All right, well, take care. Thank you, listeners, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.